And of course, you can rip up to 100x leverage. Obviously, proceed at your own risk. You will probably get liquidated.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of WagmiTV. Today we're talking Jupiter. Really exciting ecosystem, really exciting project. And I think that, especially if you're really big on Solana and the Solana ecosystem, this is going to be one to pay attention to. We're going to dive into a little bit of the back end, what it actually looks like from a infrastructure perspective and tokenomics, as well as the chart. So definitely buckle up. It's going to be a good one. And with that, we'll kick it over to Soam for kind of an initial overview and diving into some of the data behind the project.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the intro, Sia. So, yeah, on this channel we've gotten a lot of interest, specifically around Aerodrome and the thesis behind Aerodrome being kind of that central liquidity hub for the base ecosystem. Now, if you're looking for something similar, a similar sort of app style play and a deck style play on the Solana ecosystem, this is really the video for you. And so there's going to be a lot of similarities in terms of what we're looking at in some of the metrics. But for us, Jupiter seems to be kind of the best play in our perspective within the Solana ecosystem. And of course, Solana has been one of the best performing tokens of the cycle so far, bottomed in late 2022 around like $8 or $9. And since then, it's up like almost 20x. And continues to be super, super strong. We believe that obviously not financial advice, but if Bitcoin goes to all-time high, Solana could be one of these, the first tokens to do the same. So super strong token. And if you believe in that Solana ecosystem and that narrative, Jupiter is definitely one to keep on your radar. So I want to take you guys through quickly, just kind of, if you're not familiar with Jupiter itself, how the platform works, and what they've built. So obviously Solana, you get the benefit of super fast finality and super low gas fees. So it's very cheap to use. And they built a lot of really interesting features. Of course, everyone in crypto is familiar with this kind of swapping front end. Everyone knows what to do here if you want to just simply buy tokens. But what's cool is you can have more advanced strategies on Solana. So you can actually set limit orders. So let's say you want to buy Solana only if it goes down to like $150, right? You can add that into, a limit order or something like that. Similarly, let's say you just want to DCA into Solana over time, or one of these other tokens, any other token on Solana over time. They've built out that functionality. So that's really useful, right? Enables you, especially if you're trying to buy a lot of a token that has not that much liquidity. This is a really good function to help you get in and out of your positions without like severely impacting the price chart. So also this value average, another interesting feature. You can back test different trading strategies and things like that. Very cool. And then of course, everyone loves a good perps exchange. Why trade when you can just trade with maximum leverage? And so they've also built out that, which is really cool, right? Like it's good charting. You can go and you can see different time series and things like that. Overall, just a really smooth platform to use. And of course, you can rip up to 100x leverage. Obviously, proceed at your own risk. You will probably get liquidated. So overall, kind of an overview of the platform itself. So we'll start with that, and then I'll pass it over to Ev, who can kind of go through some of the metrics around the platform that we've been following, and why we're super bullish on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was great, Zoe. All right, so let's hop into the Solana Dex metrics. I think that's probably a great place to start with this, because at the end of the day, the initial swap feature that Zoe just showed there, that's a DEX aggregator. And so that's essentially going to be able to pick the best liquidity pools for you to swap between on Solana. And that's a big deal, because there is a lot of low liquidity pools on Solana with the amount of meme coins that get created on Solana. I think it's really the hub at the moment for meme coins in crypto. And so, being able to make sure you get in at the best price for meme coins is a pretty big deal. So, just looking at these metrics, if we were to hop in here, you can see that most of the liquidity on Solana is held within the Radium platform. That is this purple one right here. As you can see in the yellow here is Orca, and then in the green up here is Meteora. So, those are really the three biggest liquidity hubs on Solana. But, they could vary based on which tokens you're trying to swap between. So that matters a lot. The fact that there's three big players in Solana, you want to be able to choose which one you want to use for your swaps. And so, you can see as we go down that other different metrics have kind of that same feel where there's definitely shared liquidity across these platforms. And so what I want to show here is the Jupiter aggregator numbers. And the reason that this is so useful is because, like I just said, you can swap to the best liquidity pools, and Jupiter automatically picks those best liquidity pools for you. It does single routing, it does multi-hop routing, so you could go to Radium for one token, over to Orca for another token, and then come out with the most of the token that you're trying to swap into. So really creating efficient trades there. So yeah, as you can see, Jupiter's been doing very solid. If you were to look at the swaps here from a September 2022 timeframe all the way up to July 2024 now, we've seen quite a lot of growth on the Jupiter platform, and that's really indicative of one, how much love Solana is getting as an ecosystem, especially for the meme coins, but also how efficient Jupiter is being with these swaps. And so, as you can see, these volume numbers are fairly consistent. We had a huge pop, and I think that can probably be attributed to the huge pop that Bitcoin had around that time in Feb or March 2024 this year. And so, yeah, I think it's a platform that's continuing to see a lot of use. It honestly kind of feels like Aerodrome in that sense, just because we've seen a lot of growth in the last 6 months ish, and it's continuing to stay or continuing to keep that strong growth or strong numbers. So yeah, definitely pretty cool to see. And I think a platform we just wanted to highlight because it really offers a lot to people trying to swap in between tokens on Solana and get into perps on Solana. So yeah, I think we'll pop over to the chart, and Mata, if you could show us a little TA, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, happy to dive into it, right? I think it's fun to talk through really just some of the utility around some of these coins, right? And really just making sure that it's something that's going to be utilized, right? It's also tied to the Solana narrative, and Solana has been very, very strong lately. What was interesting out of this, I pulled out kind of three key things, right? So here's kind of our next support line, and then we have our bottom support line, which would be if it got down to these areas, these would be some very good areas to actually start to accumulate. What I also pulled out was this parallel trend line, right? So what's really interesting is if you actually take a parallel of this recent up move, which is probably in tandem with some of the up move that Solana's been seeing as well, you see that it popped here, finally broke into it, and it's actually just kind of ranging in here. So to stay bullish on Jupiter, what you're really going to want to see is one, for it not to break through this parallel, and two, for it to actually get up and above this. What's interesting is I actually found one a little bit earlier as well. And so this will kind of just show you the power of some of these kind of parallel trends that you can see. You saw it was kind of bouncing around in here. And then finally, when it broke down pretty hard, right? So you're either looking for this to break above this to be bullish on it, or if you want to buy it at some of these lower levels, right, kind of to break down from there, right? Something that I didn't love to see was this is kind of a bearish reversal candle, right? It peaked up really high and actually hit the top of that trend line. It's actually coming back down. So again, we want to make sure that it's staying within here. And if it does break down from there, you're looking at kind of the 85-ish cents level, and then 64 being some of those other lines of support. So to stay bullish on it, one, I think it's going to depend on how well Bitcoin and Solana do. And then secondly, from a chart perspective, we actually want to see this continue to move upwards rather than starting to break down from some of these parallels that we're seeing. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on our front. Again, once it breaks out of here, you'd be breaking out of some of this key resistance levels, and then you'd be looking towards some of these all-time highs as well. So hopefully they continue to get a lot of love with the Solana ecosystem and Solana keeps doing well, and we can actually see a kind of reverse trend here.
That was a really great rundown. The one thing that I want to add here is like, I think there's a fundamental difference between the way, like something like Aerodrome is positioned token wise and where Jupiter is. What I mean by that is there is no base token, right? So like when Bitcoin pumps, your ecosystem tokens on base pump pretty much right after that, right? And you can see that in kind of the Aerodrome price action. We've covered it tons of times on this channel. If you're curious about that, definitely go check out our other stuff. But what's different here is that like there's kind of this barrier of Solana, that actual token, in between when Bitcoin pumps and when some of the Solana ecosystem tokens pump. For example, back earlier in the year when Bitcoin was really doing good and Solana was absolutely sending, some of if you go back and look at like a lot of the ecosystem charts, they actually took quite some time to catch up. That inefficiency in the market can definitely be an opportunity. For example, like a lot of times you see, one token pump and then like right after that the ecosystem tokens start pumping. Happens a ton on Ethereum, but on Solana you actually have a little bit of time. And so this is all to say, with Jupiter you might have to be, at least in my view, you might have to be a little bit more patient. But if Solana continues doing well, that actually gives you even more time to try to accumulate or roll in some other profits or something into this particular token or Solana ecosystem tokens in general. Because right now the meta has been majors pump, Solana pumps, memes pump, and then ecosystem tokens pump, which is kind of different than what we've seen in like other cycles. That's just my kind of 2 cents.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too because Jupiter is an aggregator. It's not necessarily a DEX itself. When
Mm-hmm.
you look at some of the other DEX tokens like Radium or like Orca, we have seen, smaller pumps for those tokens, but they've not necessarily had the remaining value. Like they haven't stayed at the same levels that they've pumped to like Jupiter has. Jupiter, has pumped and stayed at that above $1 billion TVL for quite a while now. If you look at Radium and Orca, they've kind of receded back to maybe their normal levels. And so I think that's a good point too, is that, this isn't necessarily a one-to-one play with Aerodrome, because it does have its own quirks, being on Solana, being an aggregator, and not necessarily being a DEX in itself. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think great points all around. And I think to Soam's point of having more time and having to be more patient with Jupiter, the plus side of that is like you can monitor some of these doing analytics charts, right? You can see the activity, you can see the amount of swaps, you can see how much the aggregator is actually being used in tandem with how well Solana is doing, and then kind of make your decision from there. But again, like definitely encourage you guys to be patient, but this is not financial advice, right? As a quick reminder. It's in entertainment purposes only, but obviously you can tell we're pretty bullish on the project and also Solana as well, and think it's a great opportunity. Well, hey, let us know in the comments below like what you guys think of Jupiter. Are you involved in it at all, or maybe other projects in the Solana ecosystem that you'd like us to cover that you find interesting? We'd love to dive deep on those. But like, comment, subscribe if you found it interesting, and hopefully this was helpful. Get you guys an update, and we'll keep you guys updated in the future here on both Jupiter and Solana. But until next week, Wagme.